and Minister, you're very welcome to the House. And just to note that Fianna Fáil are totally supportive of the work that you're doing in this area and certainly welcome the publication of this bill. Excuse me, indeed, this section was actually put into the original bill at the suggestion of myself and Thomas Byrne, now Minister, when we served on the Education Committee in the last Dáil mandate. We felt that it was vitally important that the Minister of the day have the opportunity to be able to direct schools, boards of managements and the patrons indeed to absolutely take on children with special needs when that need was clearly demonstrated within the community. So I think it's really, really important. What lessons have we learned? I think it was interesting that even though it was agreed that that section be put in the bill a number of years ago, that it was, there seems to be about, I think now from understanding, about 27 different sections that all had to be dealt with. And that's why there was such a long period of time in terms of enacting 37A and it being completed. I understand that it could take up to 18 months, and then of course there would be further delays in terms of actually organising the building, the room, the resourcing, etc. So I think that, you know, we've learned that simplification is really important, so that when legislation is being introduced, that we try to ensure that it's as practical and as pragmatic as absolutely possible. So the fact that this now can be brought down to 8 weeks, I think, is really, really important and is really going to serve the young people that we're talking about in their community. It's really, really important. Minister, it's when we're talking about providing accommodation now for special education centres and classes, we're not just talking about the four walls, we're not just talking about the physical building, we're talking about the resources that are needed, we're talking about the SNAs, and we're talking about the intervention therapies that are needed. And presently, as you are aware, there's a huge gap in terms of those intervention therapies. Now, I appreciate it's outside your remit, but I think that we do need to see more coordination between the Department of Education and with the Minister for Disabilities Department in terms of those intervention therapies that are absolutely hugely needed. We all know that early intervention is hugely, hugely important and can make such a difference in the young person's life, indeed in their families and in their communities, because they all need the opportunity to fulfil their own potential in as large a way as possible. And in many cases, sadly, that is being failed due to the lack of that intervention therapy. In terms of the summer provision, which my colleague has mentioned also, I absolutely agree. I think that while the financial resources are being put in place, I think it's incumbent, particularly on special schools, to have summer provision. And I believe generally that all schools should absolutely have summer provision to help support those children that need it, those that have disability and indeed those that are vulnerable in other ways. I want to raise an issue that I have been in contact with your office about, Minister, and that's in relation to Kildare Town Community School. And they're in the position, they have excellent special education facilities in the school, and they have indeed been progressing really well in that area, but under the present system, they were told, and unfortunately it was in relation to information on a website, as opposed to just being told themselves that they would lose 2 SNAs from September. And in this situation, obviously, the heart of education is having inclusion and an inclusive practice, and SNAs indeed are the heart of every school in relation to these. And unfortunately, a lot of the supporting activities for the children that are in the ASD unit would be curtailed. It's really important that children that are within the ASD units or the SEN units have the opportunity to be involved in TY, to be involved, with Leaving Cert, with Junior Cert, with Leaving Cert applied, if they have the ability to do that. And this would actually lessen the opportunity to do that. So I would ask you to relook at this, because it's very clear from both the EPSN Act and indeed from the Education Act that you do have the authority to look at this area. So when we have a situation where the system is absolutely working for the young people that it's meant to work for, we shouldn't tinker with it, we shouldn't change it, and we need to do all that we can to ensure that that happens. Gurv Mahagat.